We're here at the Model United Nations Day, January 16th, 1998. We went in and discussed with a lot of people, a lot of issues, and saw the youth being educated, being trained in the ways of world governance and the growth of the world government control apparatus. Many of these people don't understand who controls the United Nations, and you're fixing to see that from the interviews that we conducted. And that's the scary part. There's so many good people engaged in this at the lower level, and that creates the group psychology, the peer pressure, that it is a good organization. I think we've conducted a balanced report, and the excerpts from interviews with children, teachers, and administrators, and the local United Nations recruiting organization for adults, professors, and children was here also. This is where our country is. This is where it's moving. And the scariest point of this entire discussion that we had today and this report is that we are severely lacking in teaching our youth about the Constitution of the United States and about the government of the United States. But there's plenty of money and there's plenty of help from the establishment to teach them about the United Nations. And that doesn't surprise me a bit, because we know that there is a move towards global government, abolition of private property, the destruction of national sovereignty in the name of the group collective. And what did David Rockefeller say about the public schools? What did he say about government training centers, or what he called the public schools? He called it helpless people yielding themselves to our molding hands. And these lovely, intelligent, but very young people are very easily molded by the establishment today. So let's go inside the teaching center here at the University of Texas and find out exactly what's happening to our youth of this nation.
What's your name under here, Observer?
Maybe it's just the same publisher. I read one that was called Simplify Your Life. That's what it's called.
Oh, there's a whole battery of them.
Otherwise, the pages are not supposed to let you.
One of the things.
Oh, good.
If you don't have. So, we have lots of things, lots of plans, and we think we have a great conference.
Who are some of the sponsors of the conference?
Well, we are the United Nations Association of Austin, and this year the League of Women Voters is co-sponsoring us.
Who is the head of the United Nations organization here in town?
Frank Cooksey, a former mayor.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, that's a different court, but this is actually this court, the International Court, meets in The Hague.
That's in the Netherlands, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And I see y'all are wearing little worlds there. Do y'all care about the world?
Yeah.
Y'all are good people, aren't you?
Yeah.
Do y'all think the United Nations is helping?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a great way to make world peace.
A great way to make world peace.
Mm-hmm.
Because through global governance, we can knock out all the troublemakers.
Yes.
Is that what y'all been talking about?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
Well, that's great. I hope y'all have an enjoyable time.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
What do you think about the United Nations?
Cool.
Yeah, it's
Very
good.
It's like an organization. I think it's kind of fun. It is really cool. It decides a whole lot of world issues.
Yeah, they make
World peace and stuff.
it's very really exciting. Nifty.
Well, that's great. Let's get that. Model United Nations, just one more of the many committees. Helpless young people yielding themselves to the elite's hands. I could tell them about the people that really control it, but they never understand it. It's this petty taste of power that gets them to believe that they're really doing something good when they're really working for something bad. Notice your youth are not being taught about the Constitution. They are being taught about world constitution, world proletariat, orders from headquarters. So, Mr. Schofield, how long have you been involved in Model UN?
This is my fourth year. I started at our first conference, the Central Texas Model UN, during the first conference. And it's my fourth year, and now I'm the Secretary General. Before the conference, basically putting getting all the nations to come, all the students, working with the schools, getting the pages and putting the staff together. And then once we're here, I just kind of direct, make sure everything's going smoothly, and kind of just observe, let the secretary go to work.
How many years have they been having Model United Nations here in the United States?
The oldest conference, I believe, in the U.S. is 40 years, and that's high school, and the oldest college conference is 35 years.
How long has it been here at University of Texas?
This is the 4th year for the conference. I believe the group is since 1983, and way back in the 1960s, early 60s, there was a conference here in UT.
Actually, Secretary Schofield was wrong. The United Nations was first called the League of Nations and failed in 1918 under Woodrow Wilson. It's a push for a global taxation system. And our youth are being indoctrinated. They're being brought by their high school teachers and their junior high teachers to UT and universities across the nation to learn about giving up our sovereignty. They use careful semantics in choosing the term join the nationwide movement for a more effective United Nations. It's not a nationwide movement, it's a worldwide movement. Worldwide movements are nothing new. And all through history we've seen the blood and carnage. The UN packages all its movements in the name of the children. But if you really study their history, you find individuals like Kirk Waldheim. The fact is, Kirk Waldheim, Secretary General of the United Nations from 1972 to 1982, was a top-level SS officer, a death camp operator. Yes, and the United Nations attempted to protect him. These are the same people that sit around and talk about America's civil rights and America's human rights. It's all an excuse. It's a package. It's a facade. Again, Kirk Waldheim, Secretary General from 1972 to 1982. And this fact cannot be ignored. This is the history of global government and pushes for absolute power. And we have the same type of individuals here in our nation today. There you have UN peacekeeping forces in Somalia and Rwanda, torturing, burning, making children drink salt water, eat worms, cutting people's heads off. This is the modern United Nations, but you won't see this in the mainstream press. This is a push for empire. They also give awards to China. We've already gone over China's human rights, the slave labor camps, the euthanasia, the infanticide. And they've given awards to organizations like NAMBLA. They've allowed them into the United Nations.
See, I have photographs here, and I have other ones. I actually have color copies of these, but I just brought these of them burning Somali children, putting them in cages to die. These are Belgian UN troops, of them making them eat vomit and worms and salt water, and cutting their heads off. In fact, if you have time, I'll try to show you some photographs of that. What do you think about that?
It's torture.
This has been in the Village Voice, the New American, both sides of the political spectrum, and it hasn't been in your mainstream press. These people have been punished by their respective countries, but not by the United Nations at The Hague.
Well, so, wait, describe to me again, like what exactly is going on in these pictures?
Well, this young man's being forced to, by Belgian forces in Somalia, to drink a mixture of saltwater vomit and eat worms. And then it also talks about how, in the Village Voice, how they got, actually had the entire article at home, how they got them inside so that the Hutus, they got a whole group of Hutus inside a building and then left the compound and then let the rivals come in and kill them.
Yeah, and so the American public has been, they
haven't been told about it. You can actually get this issue.
About this?
No.
Well, then how did you get this issue?
Well, I mean, these are, in Europe, it's widely reported. So you're talking about the atrocities. But you don't think that's the issue. You think these people are just being Machiavellian and trying to hurt the UN by showing these pictures.
Yes, I do, actually.
So you think these pictures just, it's kind of a good thing that the press has ignored them because the press, the mainstream press, understood that these people were just trying to manipulate, so they haven't shown us these pictures.
Well, it seems as though if this was actually such a big deal as this New American makes it to be, it seems like it would be definitely a more widespread amount.
Let me ask you a question. Are you familiar with what Pol Pot did in Cambodia? Killed over 2.5 million people. You didn't hear much about that?
Yes, I did, actually. I studied.
Are you familiar with Kirk Waldheim, who was the Secretary General of the United Nations from 1972 to 1982?
No, I'm not familiar.
Do you know who he was? He was a high-ranking SS officer in World War II, and the United Nations knew it, and they fought to protect him, but the world community demanded that he be taken out.
Well, I'd
remember that name, and that's historical fact, Kirk Waldheim.
Okay.
Really, remember that name, Justin. It's Kirk Waldheim.
Kirk Waldheim?
Yeah, remember that name, Secretary General from 1972 to 1982.
All right, I will.
And find out who pushed for the League of Nations and then later the United Nations, a bunch of transnational corrupt interest. And then they get a lot of good people at the lower levels that believe it's for the kids and all that, but really it's fascism packaged nicely.
I don't know what to say about that.
It's about losing sovereignty.
Really?
Yes.
No.
Well, look, you can ignore them burning the kids, and you can ignore all that, but what you don't want to ignore, and what you can't ignore, is Kirk Waldheim.
I don't understand how I could not ignore him.
Well, I'm just saying that's something that's totally historical.
Oh, okay.
Let me ask you,
Where's this picture taken?
that was taken in Somalia.
In Somalia?
Yes, that's been all over the European press. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Are you familiar with the fact that we hear all day about the atrocities of Hitler, which were horrible and wrong and terrible, and he should have been executed if they could have caught him, and many more like him, and they did?
Yeah.
But you never hear about Stalin, who killed more than he did. Why is that?
I've studied Stalin.
Well, you've studied it, but what do you hear more in the press?
I don't hear much about the Holocaust very much.
Oh, really?
No, not in the press lately.
Well, I'm talking about for 50 years, and we should hear about it. We should see it, but you don't hear much about the atrocities in China, do you? 30 million in slave labor camps?
I've heard about that, yes.
Oh, but you've heard about it, but we have to be pragmatic and still keep trading in human organs. They sell human organs from political dissonance. Would you have bought lampshade? Would you have bought a lampshade made out of Jewish skin?
No, I would not have.
Well, then why are we saying be pragmatic now with China that's selling human organs? It's the same thing, trading in human flesh.
Well, I certainly disagree with trading human flesh.
Well, then you and the United Nations should stand up against China instead of embracing them and coddling them.
I agree with that.
Good, then get in there and tell them.
All right, I certainly will.
Thank you so much.
You too.
Appreciate it.
Visit INFOWARS.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.